A very warm welcome to each of you and thank you for taking time out to catch us live. At SixSox, we believe that each one of us has the capability to be a winner. We welcome all of you with open arms as our goal is to serve, learn, share, and reach beyond. In addition, we are here for you with any assistance that you or your organization might need on a group or individual basis. We're also open to the idea of a virtual classroom, and you can be assured we shall provide you quality to the best of our capabilities. Today, we bring to you our second session in the Excellence series. Our dearest in-house speaker for the day shall be giving us insights on staying relevant in the future of work. With over 40 years of professional experience, including with multinational corporations such as Unilever and Constantia Flexibles, Hariharan is a specialist in strategy, strategic analysis, connected strategy, and operational excellence. A corporate advisor, assessor, and trainer with exceptionally high communication skills, he has advised and assisted organizations to exponentially improve their operational effectiveness. A certified independent director, a Six Sigma Master Black Belt, and ISO 9001-2015 Lead Auditor, Hariharan is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Marketing, United Kingdom. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our distinguished speaker, A Hariharan, with his talk titled, You, Version 2.0.
Thank you, Deepa. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are as of the moment, and welcome to another session of SixSox Saturday. It's a pleasure having all of you with us, and we look forward to an interesting session on something which perhaps has crossed our mind over the last maybe year or so, or has not occurred to us at all. What I would like you to do at the moment is to close your eyes for 30 seconds and imagine a situation where you've woken up in the morning and you don't recognize your surroundings at all. Nothing is familiar, everything is strange, and the people around you are unrecognizable. The place is unrecognizable. You don't know where you are, and that is where you are at the moment. So grant me this liberty of requesting you to close your eyes for 30 seconds and think of this and ask yourself, what will you do under those circumstances? Your time starts now, 30 seconds. Just close your eyes and think about it. Thank you. So 30 seconds has gone by, and it's gone by faster than you realized it. And you might have had all kinds of thoughts in your mind as you try to imagine this scenario. Why did I ask you to do this? Because it is something that every one of us encounters at some point in time in our life when there's a fork in the road that we are traveling on, and there is a decision that has to be taken as we reach that fork, and we have to decide where we go. The topic of today's talk is You, version 2.0, which again might sound very intriguing to you. And over the course of the next 20 minutes or so, we'll try and understand what this means to each one of us. Many of you have heard of the Industrial Revolution. You've heard of how steam first came into play in industries. That was the first industrial revolution in the late 1700s. Steam gradually gave way to electricity, and that went on till the 1900s, and that was considered to be a total game changer. And then we had the third industrial revolution, which was the era of computing, where a lot of things started getting computerized, and the way businesses started doing their work changed dramatically. And people said, it can't get better than this. But then, lo and behold, everybody was in for a surprise when we had the fourth industrial revolution taking place. And that's happening today, which is the era of intelligence. I'm not talking of human intelligence, I'm talking of intelligence in work, intelligence in processes, intelligence in technology, artificial intelligence that you've heard of. Everything is now changed completely. What has been the impact of this? The impact has been that the way businesses do their work has changed dramatically for the better as well. And in the process, the rollout of new products has also undergone a dramatic transformation. Let's look at some examples. If you look at the number of years it took for new products to gain 50 million users, right? Now, 50 million in today's context may not appear to be so large, but it is. 50 million is a lot. It took 68 years for airlines to carry 50 million passengers. It took 46 years for electricity to get accepted by 50 million users. The internet, we can't live without internet today, right? It took 7 years. The cell phone, which is an extension of our arm, took 12 years to reach 50 million users. Facebook, which a lot of you swear by, took 3 years. And Pokemon, the game, took just 19 days. But what was the result of all these things? What happened was the way businesses adapted to each of these new technologies changed. And in the process, jobs changed. The requirements from people changed. Expectations changed. Consumer habits changed. Consumer expectations got transformed. And the people working in these organizations discovered that they had to do things differently. Now, in the process of this happening, organizations started thinking about how they need to do business. And here are some very interesting research findings by companies like McKinsey. McKinsey found last year that 87% of the executives said that they were experiencing skills shortages in the workforce. They further went on to say that by the year 2030, 14% of the global workforce may need to change their occupations because of the fact that the skills required have changed. And almost 80% of the CEOs, and this is a survey done again in 2019, that the skill gap in their organizations are going to affect the growth. It's a threat to the organization's growth prospects. All this was something that people saw happening. People were getting prepared for it. But what they did not bargain for was a jolt that all of them received in the year 2020, which was the coronavirus. Now, businesses have got impacted by the COVID, but is it something that was not anticipated? No, it was anticipated, except that nobody anticipated that it's going to happen as fast as it actually did. And as a result of that, when it comes to jobs, when it comes to the workforce, when it comes to people, what started getting apparent and real was threats. What kind of threats? People started getting obsolete. They were no longer relevant to the skills that were required by the organization. And you started hearing all over the world this whole concept of people becoming redundant. Did it come as a shock? Yes, perhaps for people who had not anticipated that this would happen. But a lot of people saw it coming, that it's going to happen at some point in time. Were they prepared? Some were, most were not. And in this context, I'd like to quote a gentleman called Marshall Goldsmith, who's an executive coach, who wrote a very famous book. And he said, what got you here won't get you there. Basically, what he was talking about was, all right, you've got somewhere. You've achieved something. Is this good enough to keep you going? Is this good enough to take care of your future? And the answer is no, because what got you here won't get you there. I'd like to quote my personal experience before we go further, because that's relevant to this particular quote. What you hear won't get you there. As I was nearing the end of my professional 9 to 6 career, I had learned a few skills which were relevant in the kind of work I was doing. And the question that I asked myself was, what are you going to do next? A lot of thoughts crossed my mind. All right, I'll become a consultant. I'll become an advisor. I'll become an assessor. I'll become a trainer. I also wanted to become a teacher. And I asked myself the question, all right, you've got 40 years of experience, and that is on the credit side of your balance sheet. Do you have what it takes to be able to get where you want to go with the skills that you have? And when I thought long and hard about it, the answer was no. I didn't have all the necessary skills that I would require if I had to transform my career into something different. So what did I do? I started acquiring new skills. I became a certified ISO 9001 lead auditor. I became a Six Sigma black belt. I did a course at Wharton on connected strategy. I became a member of the American Society of Quality. I became a member of the International Institute for Operational Excellence. What did that get me? It gave me a new set of skills which could sit on top of the skills that I had already acquired over the 40 years of work, and allowed me the opportunity to explore a new direction in my personal growth, in my career, and in terms of staying relevant in life for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years, I don't know. But a time may come, and again I've got to ask myself the question, what got you here won't get you there. This is a superbly engineered fighter aircraft. It does a lot of things. It's very expensive. It works like clockwork and is a marvel of engineering. But in the best engineered products, things can go wrong. Just like in the best organizations, things can go wrong. Let me show you an example. What did you observe? The first thing that you observed was this fighter plane going down in flames. What you may have also observed was the pilot ejected just before the plane crashed and parachuted to safety with probably minor injuries, but he survived. The plane crashed, the pilot survived. Organizations get into problems. The question that you need to ask yourself, do you have a parachute for yourself? How are you going to cope with the changes that are taking place? And as you look at the environment around you and wonder what the landscape has to offer to you, you begin to think of what is called the future of work. You may have heard of this term, the future of work, but it has a lot of implications on every one of us. The World Economic Forum did a study, and they said this is the job landscape in the year 2022, where they looked at the emerging jobs and the jobs that were declining. And they said the jobs that are going to emerge are things like data analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence, software applications, data specialists, digital transformation. These are the things that are going to work in the future, and these are skills that are going to be required. And what is declining? Accounting, bookkeeping, admin and executive secretaries, factory workers because of automation. A whole lot of jobs were going to get downplayed. A lot of other jobs were going to become a lot more important. And the bottom line of this was that generalists were going to give way to specialists. The day of the generalists, one size fits all, I can do everything, no longer holds true. Because life has changed. The way businesses operate has changed. And Peter Drucker, the management guru, said the greatest danger in the time of turbulence, it is not the turbulence itself, but it is to act with yesterday's logic. What worked yesterday will work in the future? No, it will not work in the future. Therefore, things have to be done differently. Now, when things go wrong, what happens? We have an event where things have happened, right? Businesses are in difficulty. People are thinking of downsizing. Existing jobs are getting transformed into something new. And when it comes to us, what do? We blame the event. Now, we want to get somewhere. What do? We respond. So, in looking at an event, facing an event, we respond. And the type of response that we generate, the quality of the response determines the outcome of what's going to take place. So if you have 1 as event and 3 as response, the sum total logically should be 4. But what we need to be looking at is, can we get to 1 plus 3 equal to 5 or 6? Because it is the quality of response, the type of response that's going to determine the way forward for ourselves as individuals. I'm not talking of organizations, mind you. I'm talking about you and I as individuals. How are we going to achieve an outcome that we would wish to achieve? By keeping the event as constant, but keeping our response as the variable, right? So, if you look at the skills sought by employees, this again is based on research, based on studies, based on interviews with senior managers and CEOs of organizations across the world. What is it that companies are looking for today? What they're looking for, of course, is the deep knowledge of the domain areas of each person's field of work. Increasingly, they're looking at digital literacy. It's not enough to be skilled at writing an email or browsing the internet. Digital literacy goes beyond that. We talk of digital marketing. We talk of data analysis. We talk of being tech savvy beyond what we are used to. That's going to become very important. Cloud computing is a nice term. People say, yeah, everything is in the cloud. But what is that cloud computing? Artificial intelligence. When you place an order on an online platform, the moment you place the order, that's it. That platform knows a lot about you and will keep tracking you. How does that help? It helps you to project the customer demand for the future, helps you plan your strategy, helps you plan your supply chain, helps you plan your marketing efforts, helps you plan your advertising. And it is these kind of skills that are going to become a lot more relevant. E-commerce, a lot of businesses, because of the COVID, have transformed into e-business platforms by compulsion, not as a matter of choice, but because they had no choice. And that led to digital marketing in a big way, right? Apart from this, they also want soft skills, which is the flexibility, multitasking, the ability to do multiple things at the same time, the facility to be mentally agile, to be more creative, to think critically. A lot of transactions are happening off-site, means people working from home. You have virtual teams. How good are we at managing and interacting with virtual teams? It is a soft skill that is becoming increasingly more relevant. The skills of collaboration, managing people, listening becomes critical. We've got 2 years. Why? Because we're supposed to listen better. Let me give you some examples of how this has happened. I know of a particular organization that was trying to decide in terms of how they're going to restructure their sales department. So they had some good salespeople, but then they could not hold on to all of them because the scale of business changed. So they had to let go of some of them. Whom did they decide to keep back? The people who had multiple skills. Somebody who was good at digital marketing. Somebody who could look at their website and do something on the website. somebody who could capture customer data and allow the organization to be able to use that information. There was the other organization which had a production department and a maintenance department. This production manager was excellent from the point of view of the maintenance of the machines, running the machines, planning for the future. And the company said, all right, we don't need a maintenance manager because the production manager is good enough to handle both the functions. So it was one in place of two. The other organization I had interacted with had somebody looking after accounts receivables, somebody looking after accounts payables, somebody looking after banking. And they said, we've got two people more than what we need. And they found one of their account people who was good at receivables and payables, and with a little bit of training was able to do the banking work as well. He held his job. The others became, like I mentioned in an earlier slide, they became redundant, they became obsolete, they became irrelevant. This is a reality. The other thing which is going to happen increasingly as the organizations move digitally is the role of freelancers. Organizations may not want to invest in the payroll cost of skilled employees. They may bring in freelancers to do that job for them, who come in, do their job, and leave. They come in just when required. They are not a fixed resource, but they lend the expertise beyond what the organization already possesses and perform a very, very key role. The other reality is outsourced services. Let's say you have an accounting department. I know of an organization which was looking at this saying, why should I have an accounts department? I'll outsource accounting to somebody else. They will do a good job. And the cost to me is going to be much less than what I'm incurring today. Is that harsh? Yes, that's a reality. But is that something that will happen? Most definitely. Organizations are going to think differently, A, from the point of view of cost, B, from the point of view of being more nimble, C, from the point of view of meeting customer needs. Response, quality, speed, and cost ultimately. Recently, those of you who live in the U.A.E. would have heard of a very large organization which did away with formal titles. Now, if you look at specialization, if you look at multi-skilled people, one of the things that is quite likely to happen is the irrelevance of a formal structured hierarchy. Hierarchies don't work because how are you going to define the hierarchy when you have a salesperson who's also a digital analyst? When you have an accountant who's also an IT expert, when you have a production manager who's also a maintenance manager, how are you going to start allocating titles? So titles will become increasingly redundant. What is going to become critical is skills themselves. Now, all of us work for what? To earn a living. There was a gentleman who was one of those philosophers, thinkers, advisors called Marshall McLuhan, who said, the future of work consists of learning a living. It's no longer earning a living. And how true it is in today's world. Because if we don't learn to earn a living, we are not going to be able to earn a living. Let that sink in. We are going to look at an environment where the future consists of learning to earn a living rather than just earning a living. But what are the obstacles that we face? And this is something that's real. All of us think of these things and it happens to us at some point in time. We think, we agonize, and we sit idle. We don't value what we learn. We are exposed to learning, but we don't absorb it. We don't understand how we are learning it, how important it is to learn, how we learn, how much time we devote to that learning. A lot of us have this self-doubt about whether we can master the skills. Can I do it? No, I've done it this way for the last 20 years. It's worked. Last 30 years, it's worked. It's beyond me now to go back to school of any form to try and master a new skill. It's beyond me. Forget it. Let the youngsters do it. We blame the environment. Yeah. Oh, it is the environment which is at fault. My company is at fault. My boss is at fault. I'm perfectly fine, but what can I do? Everything is working against me. So if we want to make it happen, we've got to overcome each one of these, and we struggle with these states constantly. You remember what I talked about? The event, the response, and the outcome. If our response is going to be like this, the outcome is going to again create problems for us, and what got us here will keep us here. We will not be looking ahead. And at this point, therefore, what we're talking about is looking at you, and you means every one of us, a new version of ourselves, which is what I call version 2.0. It may sound a very catchy phrase, but it is a reinvention of ourselves, a reinvention of the way we think, a reinvention of our skills, a reinvention of our capabilities, a reinvention of how we approach work and how we approach the organizations that we are involved with. We may no longer stick to conventional frameworks of work. If you're young enough, 10 years from now, we may be operating as freelancers and doing extremely well, not bound by formal organization structures. This is a reality that is going to happen. And if we happen to have a SixSox meeting 15 years from now, and I happen to be around, I will be happy to hear your experience about how true this actually was and how it actually happened. Because it will happen. So, what is your version 2.0? The first thing you need to do is to take a realistic stock of yourself. Yeah. Here, you need to be totally unbiased, unfettered, unfiltered. Take stock of yourself as a person, your skills, your abilities, your experience, your attitudes, your wants, your needs, everything. Take stock of yourself. Then you start defining your expectations. Where do I want to go realistically? A year from now, this is where I want to be. 5 years from now, this is where I want to be. Which is fine. It's all fine to say this is where I want to be. But how am I going to get there? So you define your expectations, define a timeline, and start working towards it. So you draw up plans to upskill yourself. Do I want to become a data analyst? Yes. What do I need to do? Do I want to learn banking? How do I transform from an accounts receivable person to a person who can handle the banking function of the organization? Do I want to acquire a degree in accounting that will make me a better accounts person? Do I want to become a better salesperson? Do I want to go beyond conventional selling to digital marketing? What is it that I want to do? What are the skills that I need to acquire to be able to achieve what I want to do in the time frame that I want to work towards? Yes. If you don't do that, there is no progress. And you need to ask yourself that fundamental question. Every one of us needs to ask that. What am I willing to change? If the answer is, I'm not willing to change anything, the end result or the consequences, nothing will change for you or me, and we will stay where we are. It's like running a race, right? Standing in the same place, right? Or it's like you have an escalator which is going down and you're trying to run up the escalator. You're not going to make any progress. So what am I willing to change? I come back to my personal example. When I was at the crossroads of my career, I asked myself, look, you're getting older. Are you prepared to put in that extra effort? Are you willing to go through that sweat of getting back into a classroom to learn, in a different form of classroom, but a classroom nonetheless, to learn something? Are you willing to mentally accept that somebody who's half your age is going to be teaching you something new? Am I going to change my mindset? And the answer is yes. I got my answer. I learned. Did it help me? Yes. Did it make me a better person professionally? Yes. Was it necessary? Yes. This is something which is universally applicable. The degree may vary, the skill may vary, the field that you choose may vary, but the fact remains that every one of us, in some form or the other, needs to upskill. One of my classmates from school is a gynecologist and obstetrician. Yeah, she's my age. She can retire now. Even today, she's going through classes to upgrade her skills with the latest technologies in medical science. Does she need to do it? She believes that it is important for her to upgrade her capability. Will she use it? She thinks she will. The answer is, what am I willing to change? And the moment you're able to answer that question, you will have the answer to you version 2.0.
Thank you, Mr. Hariharan, for this interesting session. For those of you with us today, if there are any unanswered questions, please write back to us on our email ID and we shall revert to you with the speaker's response. We thank you for having attended this session. Always remember, SixSox Minds is here to serve, learn, share, and reach beyond. We look forward to seeing you all next week too. On that note, wish you all a great day ahead from all of us at SixSox Minds.